The song Freddie would not only refer to as Spread Your Legs, it's John Deacon's inspirational number, Spread Your Wings. Next on Crown Jewels. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Project's Crown Jewels. As always, I'm your host, PLD, and this is the podcast where I take you on a journey through the Queen catalog. Every song, every version, you figure out what the crown jewel or best version of the song is, so we can slide that into our ultimate playlist. Give you some history, I'll give you some notes, some quotes, and we will see if it fits into my top 10 Queen-related songs of all time. This week's song is the song that Axl Rose cites as one of the biggest inspirations to him in becoming a musician. A very inspirational track written by John Deacon. It's Spread Your Wings. Now, John wrote it. Freddie played lead vocals and the piano. Brian played guitar. John plays bass guitar and acoustic guitar. And Roger Taylor plays the drums. Now, in the video, you'll see John playing the piano, but Freddie did learn it and play it. And you can kind of tell, I think. He's got that very rhythmic style that Freddie uses. Now, the song was issued as a single in the UK. It hit number 34. Belgium, France, Germany, and the Netherlands, it hit number 20. And Spain, all those got the single. But it did not get a single release in the US. Now, it was played live through 1979. Then, surprisingly, fortunately, my eyes dropped. Freddie would usually play with the crowd that was going to be into it, just like I mentioned in the cold open, introducing the song as Spread Your Legs, because that's just how he is. It was brought back during the Queen Adam Lambert tour that did celebrate the release of the 40th anniversary of News of the World for a little while. So we got some versions to listen to with Queen and Adam Lambert. It's a very nice song and a nice time for the band. Right around the time they were shooting this video, and We Will Rock You, then the band actually parted ways with their manager, John Reed, and went on to managing themselves with help from Miami Jim Beach. I come to the point where we're going to listen to the different versions. I figure out which is the crown jewel. If this is your first time here, you look at the show notes, you'll see a Google Doc, which has a listing of all the YouTube links to the versions of the song we're going to listen to. When I tell you to, I'll have you pause the podcast, go listen to that version, come back, and we will discuss it. This week's I have a few versions to listen to, and a couple to mention. We won't listen to them or rank them. But we try to rank as many as we can to see if we can get to what again, like I said, the crown jewel or best version is. This week we have the studio version from News of the World. We have the BBC session, number 6 session. We have a single edit. Now, a lot of times, sometimes single edits are really chopping up a song or they change things around. And sometimes, like in this case, it just fades out about 8 seconds earlier. The song fades out. This one fades out a little earlier. So I'm not going to actually rank this because it's just not different enough, not worth listening to. It does exist somewhere, though, just for the completeness sake. We have an instrumental version, which was released on the News of the World 40th anniversary, as well as an alternative take also released on the News of the World 40th anniversary. I have a couple of unreleased versions that have kind of leaked. One is a test pressing version. Now, what is a test pressing version? Basically, this is a 3-track, one-sided 12-inch test pressing from 1977. Had 3 tracks on it. There were 50 of this promo test pressings made, and it was We'll Rock You, We the Champions, and Spread Your Wings. Now, We'll Rock You and We the Champions were the same versions. The Spread Your Wings featured a little bit of an early mix, so we will listen to that. The next up, we also have the reel-to-reel tape, the Basin Street Studios reel-to-reel tape. This is a master tape that was dated July 27th, 1977. Featured 3 rough mixes, Who Needs You, All Dead, and Spread Your Wings. Unfortunately, I've never heard the complete version. The complete version has not leaked completely as far as I know. I've only heard a 5-10 second snippet, so I can't rate it. I will talk a little bit about it. I know there's a description on Queen Vault of exactly what was different. I can tell you what I heard in the 5-10 seconds, but it's not enough for me to rank it amongst the highs of the crown jewels. That's for sure. Now we have a couple of other versions to listen to or not listen to. One specifically, this one I can't even confirm it exists, but there is a rumor that Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails fame did a remix of Spread Your Wings. He famously did a cover of Get Down, Make Love He is a big Queen fan. He also did a remix of Stone Cold Crazy, a fantabulous remix, if I have to say, if I say so. But yeah, there's a rumor for some reason that he did a Spread Your Wings remix. I don't know if it's true. I've never heard it, never seen it anywhere. Could be just hearsay. Who knows? Finally, as far as live versions go, we do have the officially released Live Killers album, and then alternatively, Queen and Adam Lambert live in 2017 from the Hollywood Bowl. So, without further ado, let's take a listen to that studio version. Again, it's in the show notes below. Pause this, listen to that, come back, and we will talk about it. All right, there you go. The studio version, simple piano opening, but I love the lyrical playing by Freddie. Really kind of draws you in. It's very hypnotic. The whole song is permeating with power of hope, yearning, like that on your own against the world kind of thing. Almost a Disney level type song, but not quite as, I don't want to say formulaic because Disney songs are good, but it still feels like kind of have that rock and roll kind of edge, that soulful edge. The second verse is very, very powerful, with the band playing that higher level, the volume, the crunchiness of it. What's impressive is the great sing-along chorus, because it's great for the fans you're going to listen to later on in the live versions. Those fans will sing it back. However, for Queen, it's surprising that there are no backing vocals. It's all Freddie. If you look going back to that who does what music-wise, lead vocals. There's no backing vocals throughout the entire song. Very, very unlike Queen. The crowd singing is definitely a backing vocal during the live versions, but otherwise, it's just Freddie doing his thing. I kind of feel that helps that being on your own sentiment, which I do enjoy. I love Freddie has some great vocal reads throughout the miles away. Really, you feel that cutting like glass in your throat, that really kind of soaring, but like hurt emotionally. Crunchiness in his voice. It's really cool. Great effect on Brian's guitar throughout at some points. Backed out, I like how it goes up and down. There's some bigger, higher volume moments, and it usually comes back down to more of the lyrical piano, John doing the acoustic guitar. Some great lyrical bass playing by John, as always. I do love the final Sammy boy, don't you know who you are? I love Brian adding some doubling over the last bit, some more things like that. And the guitar solo outro is pretty nice. It's very difficult for me, or very different rather from a typical Queen song in many ways as the song fades out. But yeah, this is a very special song. Very kind of unique in the Queen catalog, but very powerful nonetheless. All right, let's go listen to the next track. Go back to the Google Sheet. You'll see the next is the instrumental version. Click on that, and we'll come back and we'll talk about it some more. All right, there you have it. That's the instrumental version. Now, it's a very interesting instrumental version, unlike most of the other instrumental versions. This is actually from an alternate mix. The multi-tracks were lost, so they basically had to take an slightly earlier mix and make that the basis for the instrumental. It's mostly noticeable during the guitar solo, but there are other moments here and there where things are just not quite the same sounding. You get to hear a little bit of studio banter in there as well, especially during the really quieter moments. But otherwise, not too different. It is interesting hearing. It almost feels like there's different chords sometimes when there's no voice over the top of them. I remember, like, especially when that voice comes in and doesn't come in the instrumental version, and it's kind of very interesting to see. Otherwise, more of a cure than anything else. Very rarely you'll see me put an instrumental on top unless something's so radically different and to be that much better. So otherwise, though, let's move on to the next version we're going to talk about. This version is the BBC session number 6. And click on that link, come back, and we'll talk about it. There you have it, folks, from the 6th BBC session Queen did at Maida Vale Studios in London. That was Spread Your Wings, and quite a different sounding song. The tempo is much, much faster than the album version. In fact, it's much closer to the live version, which you're going to hear a little bit of soon enough. The drums are much more prominent in this BBC version. The guitar seems more crisper, more cleaner in this version. Freddie doesn't quite go for it as much. I had a couple of spoken times saying, boy, don't you know who you are? The drumming afterwards that though is kind of very nice, adding things to it. There's a cool, very cool, very cool. I would say the highlight of this version for me is the double time ending with a lot of extra piano riffing and ad libbing. Oh, chef's kiss. It just comes and goes, spread your wings. And it's kind of, Roger's going double time with it. It's a very great rock and roll moment. I really kind of don't see why they didn't put this on the album version, to be completely honest with you. It's very, very cool. Very, very cool. I'm a big, big fan. So there we go with that. All right, next up, let us go to the next version. The next version we're going to listen to is the test pressing version. Go find that in the Google Doc, listen to it, and come back for more. All right, that's the test pressing version. I realized that we had no YouTube audio for you to listen to, so unfortunately, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But with that in mind, you're not missing a whole lot. The audio is not great. First of all, it's not professional done at this point. No cleaned ups. There's a lot of noise there. The version itself is pretty similar. Is it worth seeking out for that? I don't think so. It's a slightly different guitar time, or at least it's mixed differently at the end. I got a few different vocal takes towards the end as well, but it's not much to write home about. It is slightly different, so I'm not definitely working on or listening to rather and deciding where it would fit. But at the end of the day, it's not something I would be remiss if I left it out. Next up, we would have the rough mix reel to reel tape. I'm going to play you almost as much as I have heard on my own. Get to that Google sheet and come back, and I'll still be here waiting for you. All right, folks, that little snippet you just heard, of course, you get from point A to point B is almost as long as what I have heard as a whole. I did look up to queenvault.com. They have listened to it, and they had a little bit of a take on it. So from queenvault.com, the reel-to-reel version, it was said that it contains extra guitar during the chorus section that did not make the final version. Well, that's kind of what we heard. That snippet's what we heard. Some guitars definitely not in the final version. A little extra guitar. I kind of feel like sometimes Brian will take things, I don't want to say a little too far, but he'll add a lot of guitar and then they scale him back a little bit. I kind of feel like that's how Queen worked quite a few times, because quite a few times we have the whole guitar moments that are in earlier versions. There's more of them, and then they kind of make it a little bit simpler, which is not a bad way to go. So, all right, let's move on to the next version then. The alternative take, which was again an earlier mix. This one was actually released on the 40th anniversary box set in 2017. Quite a different take. So I'm looking forward to your thoughts on this one. It's in the Google Doc. Come back. We shall talk about it. All right, there it is. The alternative take, much different in some areas. It's a very slow piano intro before the actual song starts. I really kind of like how that begins. This is very kind of like legato, kind of just like feel you out kind of section. And then Freddie comes in without the usual piano intro. So instead of that, we just get that a couple notes, and then Freddie just jumps in. It's a very different Freddie vocal track throughout. He definitely does some different line readings here and there. Brian definitely experiments more with his guitar track here. Definitely hasn't quite figured out exactly what he wants to do. It kind of feels like a more relaxed version of the song. Like it's not a perfect version. It's just almost like we're going to run through this. And yet at times I kind of felt it more strongly emotional. Like I want to put in air quotes here, mistakes that Freddie makes in a way. Feels like Freddie wanted to perfect it and everything else, but it almost works better without it being perfect because it's such a blue collar kind of song, that kind of thing. So I feel like that's what actually sounds even better to me than the usual Freddie perfection. I do like the new guitar bits at the end, or they probably haven't gotten to the point where he hasn't decided to double Freddie. It's doing his own thing a little bit. It's an interesting take. I think I might prefer the doubling overall, but it's definitely an interesting curio to hear at this point. I do like Freddie's "Spread Your Little Wings" as we get into the outro section. He kind of ad libs a little bit more, definitely more ad libs than there were in the original for sure. And it's kind of funny. I mean, this does hurt its chance at being the crown jewel, but it kind of breaks down. The ending breaks down, doesn't quite finish. It's just kind of just falls apart. But then Freddie goes, "What a jam!" I like that ending. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, that is the alternative take. So that's all the studio stuff we're going to talk about. Let's take a look at the live version. The first one we're going to look at out of two live killers from the 1979 album. Click on that link, and I'll be waiting back when you're ready. All right, there you go, the live killers version. If you look at queenlive.ca, run by my good friend Bob Wigner, he has a great analysis of the live killers album, especially breaking down the where this track came from. Because if you haven't heard me rant about this before, for some reason the band didn't just use takes from Paris, takes from London, takes from. They would actually take songs and use like tapes from Paris for the first verse, then a tape from London. They stitched together like Frankenstein style a lot of times. And through the use of like unreleased recordings and bootlegs over the years, you can kind of figure out where it came from. Well, in this case, though, they can't. It's a full take as far as I know. It's an unknown venue, unknown time frame, but it's really on its own. As for the version itself, the tempo is much more upbeat, much more like the BBC version. Well, the piano actually starts as a combo of the alternative take and the album version. I kind of have that beginning section that was in the alternative take, but then it kind of goes into the normal lyrical way to start the piano as we get into it. Freddie takes it down a bit. He never really kind of goes for it, although it's really high notes. He definitely takes it down to some more spoken word for it. It's great to hear the crowd sing along. They really kind of take over the chorus. They're really kind of chilling. You kind of just saying goes. All of a sudden, the moment builds, and all of a sudden you just hear the audience spread your wings, and it's really kind of powerful. I really enjoy that aspect of it. It's got some great Roger drumming towards the end, right before the final breakdown. All in all, it's a good version. Solid version. All right, let's take a look at the Queen Adam Lambert version, the final version we're going to listen to before we break down which is the crown jewel, the rankings, the ratings, and all of that good stuff. But first, Queen Adam Lambert. Click on that link in the Google Doc, and then come back and we'll talk about it. And there you have the Queen Adam Lambert version. This tempo is a little slower. So it's going back to more the album version. I don't know if it's the case of Brian Roger being much older at this point in 2017. But it definitely feels a little slower compared to like the Live Killers version. This is one of those songs that fits Adam very well. Adam was always on the ballads, much better than the rockers, much better with the pop songs. But this is a very lovely, powerful song, especially all the high notes that they do. And he hits all the high notes, but it does sound emotionally less charged from Freddie. And that's always been the knock on Adam, so to speak. He has the great technical sense. Sometimes he doesn't quite have the right feel. But overall, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the version. We do get the interesting, like, up-tempo ending, like the BBC version kind of gets into that section briefly. Ryder does the double time. Then it goes back to the slower tempo. It's kind of an awkward transition. The song's arrangement isn't the best. There's some weird, awkward moments. We do get a good, cool sing along with the crowd, especially at the end. That's nice. We got some really great drumming from the old man, from Roger at this one. So all in all, a pretty fun, decent version, I gotta say. So, all right, there we go, folks. Now it is time to rank the versions we can rank and figure out which one is the crown jewel. Again, I cannot listen to the reel to reel, so that's not going to happen. I'm also not going to be ranking the single edit. Without further ado, let's go find out what the rankings are. All right, going from the least favorite to the crown jewel, the bottom of the list, the test pressing version. Again, part of that's the audio file itself, so I couldn't even tell if it was that great. But in this case, it didn't sound much different, and definitely wasn't worth listening to it on a bootleg version. Up there, instrumental version. Again, I like the instrumental versions quite a bit. We do hear those nice things, but they're more of a curio than anything else. Even unless it's drastically different, I can't ever see it being that high ranked on a crown jewel list of sorts. Up from there, Queen Adam Lambert 2017 live. It's tough to put this so low, to be honest with you, but at the same time, the awkwardness of the arrangements and the fact that the other live version is very well done. It's got to happen. All right. Next up from there, the alternative take. If it wasn't for that falling apart at the end, then I think this would have been higher. I think it's a fun version. It's a powerful version. And deserves to get heard more. From there out, we got the live killer version. Again, a good live version, not quite as good as some of the studio stuff, especially with the Freddie's high voice and attempting to go for things that we might not have been in his best interest to go for at that point. But overall, it's still a decent enough version. Yeah, there it is. All right, so it comes down to the final two, is the album version, the BBC session. Well, I think you heard me throughout. Well, you probably noticed which one's going to be. It's the BBC session number 6. That's my favorite version of Spread Your Wings, the crown jewel, so to speak. It's something about having that the edge in his voice is there, but they also have that great ending, the jam session. So it's actually a pretty easy decision overall. Well, what am I going to give this song on a scale of 1 to 11? Because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects. Remember, we're trying to see if it's going to slide into my top 10 Queen-related songs of all time. I'm going to tell you now, it's not. Although I'm kind of surprised it's not. I'm going to give it a 9.5. It's very high, very good. The crown jewels are just a little higher nowadays. But what a great track. Great track. That's going to do it for us this week, folks, on Crown Jewels, and for, I believe, the rest of the year. That's right. We're going to take off a couple weeks there for the holidays. We shall return on January 5th, Friday, January 5th, with the track Fight from the Inside, a Roger Taylor rockin' number. I hope you all have a great holiday season. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. Much love to everybody. I can't wait to come back and talk more about Fight from the Inside. That's next week. If it's your first time here, hit that like, subscribe next week. I just said it's a couple weeks from now, and I'm saying next week. That's how this is rolling. I also actually want to apologize if you've been hearing me throughout this recording. I feel like I have 2 kittens that are just massively playing in the other room. Every once in a while, I've been hearing some noises coming from there. I'm hoping it wasn't too distracting for you guys. I appreciate the patience there. But if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. That's Star Wars' Austin Goodell, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, Jeremiah Morris, a bunch of cool cats. I got to tell you, help keep the lights on. Really do appreciate you guys. And yeah, so that will do it. I can't wait till next week, or next couple of weeks rather. And we also have some great other podcasts on the other channel, the main channel, same audio feed. We do Big Blue Box, the Doctor Who after show. We do Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film, go through horror franchises. Right now we're doing Friday the 13th. We're doing a review, going over the V franchise from the 80s. And Holy Snokes, every week a Star Wars podcast I do with Matty Gunner. Great time being had. So, well, I will see you next time. Until then, God save the Queen, everybody. Keep yourself alive. And of course, as always, I'd say Fight from the Inside, but that's next week's track. So spread your wings and fly west.